classmates, families, professors, and deans. I am honored and humbled to address you today. This is truly a momentous time for all, and the events of today and tomorrow will be days we remember for the rest of our lives. Now, graduation speeches, as I've learned, are not easy to write, and novelty is a goal not easily won. After all, graduation speeches have probably been going on for hundreds of years, and esteemed members of society such as Steve Jobs, Bill Clinton, Conan O'Brien, and Bono have delivered some of the best to date. So how on earth could I be more profound than them? Recognizing the uphill battle I was waging, I quickly resolved to drop all pretenses and proceed genuinely and honestly and speak directly from the heart. In addition, an essential requirement of any graduation speech is brevity, and I shall not fail you in this regard. I promise to keep things under or around 10 to 12 minutes, certainly no more than 14. I'd be shocked if it went 16 minutes. I'd be floored. So with all this in mind, I believe that this day marks two important things. The first is a well-earned celebration of our last 4 years here. And second, it provides an introspective moment as we define the values and behaviors we'll take with us as physicians. So those two areas, past and future, is what I'm going to touch on today. First, the past. 4 years of medical school have really flown by. I look around the room and we all pretty much look the same. Chooks' biceps are still 36 inches around. Nick Burjack has the same face that's been on practically every Vanderbilt medicine website. And Conrad is wearing a Hawaiian shirt right now. Actually, I don't think he is. But the people that entered this school 4 years ago honestly bear a little resemblance to those that are sitting here today. This has very little to do with the vast amount of medical knowledge we've consumed. Rather, it has much more to do with the patients we treated and the families with whom we grieved. But our respective transformations have most to do with the culture and the environment of our school, and how our school has deeply invested in each and every one of us, not only as future physicians, but also as maturing young adults. That investment in each student, whether it's a faculty member opening their home for an advisory college dinner, or a meeting to reflect on the difficulties of working in the hospital for the first time as a third-year student. That investment is simply not common in a medical school. It really isn't. One story that exemplifies this philosophy dates back to my first medical school exam. Coming off a sluggish second semester senior year of college, where I had class 2 days a week, starting promptly at 11:40 a.m., our first biochemistry exam was fast approaching. Some senior students advised, "Biochem is easy. Have fun until anatomy hits." And I consider myself a good listener, and I happily obliged. I studied for the test, but I really didn't make it a priority. So Friday morning came, and 3 hours later, I exited what felt like a 12-round boxing match with Mike Tyson. Jab after jab, he connected with amino acids, Krebs cycle derivatives, and paternal alleles. My liberal arts major had failed me, and I was certain that I had failed my first medical school exam. I had to tell Dr. Osheroff, our course director. And so at 8:53 p.m. on Saturday night, I emailed Dr. O to tell him this. And at 9:50 p.m., exactly 57 minutes later, on a Saturday night, I received a reply from Dr. O. He offered immediate consolation, positive reassurance, and picked me up when I really needed it most. He reminded me that this was not about any kind of innate intelligence, but rather the adjustment to medical school that we were all dealing with. This anecdote portends the philosophy towards students we would all experience throughout the next 4 years. Mentors and attendees who not only want us to succeed, but are willing to stand beside us as we may struggle and work together to guide us towards success. And not only does this philosophy result in devoted mentors, but over the last 4 years, we've had a lot of fun. And some say college is the best 4 years of your life. But I would submit that the 4 years we've spent in medical school have been pretty unbelievable. Whether it's Dr. John Leonard serenading our class with his rendition of Funny Valentine, Dr. Atkinson giving a comedy routine in the form of an organ recital, or Emery Sue and Adam Spiegel dueling over a piano. Balance and fun have been at the forefront of our experience. Now, finishing medical school should be a time of pure elation We've traversed 2 years of lecture, taken countless exams, and rotated on every service in the hospital, and are finally ready to start our training. But in talking to my classmates this week, this is not the overwhelming sentiment. Instead, it's nostalgia. And don't get me wrong, we're all very excited to be done and graduating. But I would venture that most of us, if not all, will feel a tinge of sadness as we walk across this stage tomorrow. And it's never fun to be sad, no one likes that. But I think that we are all incredibly fortunate to be this nostalgic about graduating medical school. So now, moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, providing profound life advice is the job of much more innovative thinkers than myself. Thus, I'd like to touch on 3 values as we move forward. But I'd like them to be taken in the context of our impending residencies, something each and every one of us will be facing in about 6 weeks. For all of us during our residencies, there will be incredible highs and tons of excitement, but at times we will be tired, we'll be overworked, and clearly not at our best. And anyone can embrace strong morals and values when rested and prepared, but when we're sleep deprived and burned out, that's when it's most important to be at our best, and also when it's most difficult. So the first is having the courage to disagree and be unpopular. A quick story. During my 3rd year, I was at a weekly department conference. A surgical resident presented a case about a patient whose pathology, their problem was causing significant pain and disability. They were having a really hard time, but an operation was not medically indicated, even though the patient wanted it really badly. In the conference, an attending then raised their hand and said, "I see this all the time. Patients come to my office and demand surgery, even when an operation is not indicated. And then they complain to patient affairs, and I get in trouble. It's unbelievable sometimes." This comment seemed to somehow galvanize the room. Other attendees chimed in, sharing frustrations that patients lobbying for surgery made lives more difficult for the surgeon. Then, an attending, standing in the back of the room, we'll call him Dr. A, raised his hand and spoke. "I don't think that's the right attitude to have. We shouldn't be upset that patients have other ways to fight for what they want. We shouldn't be looking for ways to get rid of our patients. We should be looking for ways to help them. That's why we all became physicians in the first place." The room was surprised by such a sharp shift in tone. Several attendees responded, somewhat defensively, some even scoffed, saying that's not at all what they meant, their comments weren't meant in that way, and this was all a big misunderstanding. Dr. A simply stood in the back of the room, silent, letting his comment resonate. This entire exchange for me was beautiful to witness. Did Dr. A's comment make him popular? No. Did it anger some people? I would probably guess so. But what's most important is that he saw an injustice and he spoke up. And this story did not occur on a large stage or in front of a big audience. It didn't create a major controversy. But in general, these instances and these opportunities often do not. They are small, intimate encounters. And we will all be faced with similar situations, and it's crucial to remember, even if we disagree with the entire room, chances are there will be at least one person in that room who is thinking what we're about to say, and who respects us for taking a stand. Going forward, it's our job to act on our principles instead of popular opinion. So second is having the courage to show compassion and be vulnerable. So 2 years ago, during our brain and behavior course, Dr. Norden would invite family members who had lost loved ones to speak to our class and share their stories. One example comes to mind. One mother recalled being in the hospital for weeks due to her daughter's brain tumor. The daughter had been re-hospitalized again, and her clinical course was declining, and the mother was clearly struggling. The mother recounted that what meant the most to her, the single memory she holds on to, was one morning on daily rounds, one of the young residents approached her, saw her looking sad, and simply put her hand on the mother's shoulder and provided a warm smile. A small act like that, a seemingly small act, years later made an indelible mark to the grieving mother. Now, relating this to our experience, during our 3rd and 4th years, I would venture that we've all had impulses to do something caring or compassionate, but for one reason or another, maybe we chose not to. Maybe because we thought it would be perceived as weak or soft or naive, or our residents wouldn't like it, or it just wasn't what we were supposed to do. It's not how you're supposed to act in the hospital. And We all have a tendency to live inside other people's heads and have our actions dictated by what others may think. But these small acts of compassion, where we make ourselves vulnerable to show emotion to another person in need, can have a lasting impact and can transform a patient's experience in few ways things in medicine can. Third is having the courage to laugh. Laughing and humor may seem somewhat out of place in the serious hallways of the hospital, but I really believe humor is central to life. One of my favorite quotes of all times. Absence of humor renders life impossible. And in 6 weeks when we're working in the hospital, maintaining a sense of humor and being able to laugh at ourselves is really fundamental. During residency, we're all going to be busy. Mistakes will be made, some more embarrassing than others, but it will be a long residency for every one of us if we can't take a step back, point the finger at ourselves, and see the levity in our own mishaps. One last story from my 3rd year. I was on neurology, and I was walking down to the emergency department with 2 of my upper-level residents. And they had told me before that I was going to interview the whole patient. This was going to be my show, and they were going to stand in the background and evaluate me. So I was reading about the patient online, and I read that about 3 or 4 years earlier, he had a corpus callosotomy procedure. The corpus callosum, a midline structure in the brain, was cut in an effort to control the patient's seizures. So we were walking down the emergency department. We finally got there. We go to the patient's room, and I introduce myself. My residents introduce themselves, and they're standing behind me, and I'm about to interview the patient. And so I open up and say, "Now, sir, what year did you have your corpus colostomy done?" Colostomy, of course, a procedure involving the bowel and feces. Not at all what he had done 4 years earlier. So knowing that my grade and dignity for the entire rotation were completely lost in that instance, I could have gotten angry about this and really upset, but instead decided to take a step back and now share this story with an audience of about 500 people. In addition, humor can really help patients. No matter what field we're going into, we'll be around constant suffering, people in pain, looking for ways to cope. Humor can help us cope at the very instant of laughter. Between the medical jargon, blood gas levels, and daily rounds, humor brings a powerful dose of humanity to patient treatment. And if we're not open to accepting this humor, opportunities for healing may be lost. So as you may have guessed, these 3 values all have one thing in common. They require great courage. The courage to disagree and be unpopular, the courage to be vulnerable and show compassion, and the courage to laugh. I hope we can remember all these qualities when they are needed most, when we're overworked and we're tired, and when they are most difficult to embrace, and when true character is revealed. So in closing, I could spend another 30 minutes here thanking everyone who has helped us get to this moment. Parents, professors, deans. But the one group of people I must thank is my own classmates. Personally, I have learned more than I ever thought was possible about life, about myself, about how to act from some of the most amazing people I've had the privilege of working alongside. And really, I mean, how do you measure a class? Is it a match list or the prestige of a residency program? Not at all. That actually could not be farther from the truth. I believe it's the rapport they've created, how inclusive they are of everyone, and how well they function as a team. And I really think that our classmates have exemplified these qualities to the fullest. My congratulations to everyone on this incredible accomplishment. And in the coming years, I hope they bring success in our careers, in our personal lives, and with our families. Thank you.